Sorry.
Oh, all righty. Hello, Ms. Vargas. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm
Um,
here.
yes, we're very excited to talk to you today. The county is one of the larger second largest by population, a jurisdiction in the county. It is the county, unincorporated. But you do also have a couple other jurisdictions, especially Chula Vista and Imperial Beach, we just discussed, that have put together their own regulations. But you also do have some unincorporated areas as well that your vote would directly impact. So I don't want to butcher any introductions here, but we do have some things up on the screen talking about you. Do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your race?
Sure. First and foremost, thank you for having me, Dallin, and everyone. It's a great opportunity to have a conversation with all of you. I had an opportunity to also listen in on one of the gatherings that you had with Nathan, that Supervisor Fletcher, and I really appreciated the opportunity. And so I felt it was probably a good idea to tell you a little bit about myself and where I'm at in terms of this race. I think it's really important and why it makes a difference. There's a lot of folks, and you have information about me on the screen, but what's important for all of you to know is that I currently serve on the Board of Trustees for Southwestern College, and I'm very proud to be at the college since I actually went to Southwestern College, and to be able to give back to my community is really important to me. I often tell folks that this is not political for me. This is really, I am doing this for my community, and really because I really do believe, when I looked at who was thinking about running, I felt we needed to have someone who had experience at the federal, state, and local level, someone who, like myself, who's actually been an executive, who's done this work, to be able to bring a very different lens to the Board of Supervisors, not a typical politician, but someone who's on the ground, boots on the ground, getting the work done. And out of 7 folks that were running for this seat in the primary, I made it to top 2. I was outspent, but not outworked. And so what you'll know about me, for those of you who don't know me, and by the way, I have a puppy who's 9 weeks old. He's like down here. I'm really nervous. That's why I keep going and looking down, because the other day I was in a meeting and he tried to pull the computer thing out. So I'm sorry if I'm like, it's probably like now I know what parents do all the time. But anyway, so.
My puppy's locked in the other room, so I totally understand.
Done that, but he probably would be crying. So anyway, all that said, that for me, it's it's really important to be able to serve on the Board of Supervisors, because I have a background in healthcare, and I really felt that it's what we needed. I mean, not only this is pre-pandemic, right, when we knew that our communities already were, there was a lot of disparity around health and housing issues and transportation issues, but food insecurity issues. But the pandemic, I think, has really brought light a very unique perspective to the South Bay and the inequities. And I think all of you know that particularly the Latino community in District 1 has been impacted in a horrible way. Even though we're like, I guess, about 30-something% of the population, we are almost 70% of the cases with COVID. And so for me, healthcare is the priority as a board member for the Board of Supervisors. And what I was saying about the folks who are running, the pathway to victory looks really good for us. We actually have been able to gain a lot of momentum from the community. I'm the only candidate who has Democratic Party endorsement. I have, folks like Assemblyman Lorena Gonzalez, Georgette Gomez. I have Mayor Mary Salas has endorsed me. Alejandra Sotelo Solis has endorsed me. So I have a lot of community support, a lot of leadership, a lot of the folks who are on the ground doing the work. And so I think I'm in a great place to be able to win this election. We did a poll where I am about 18 points ahead of Senator Wessel. And part of the reason for that, once they hear my message, it's because people really want new blood on that board and in representation here in the South Bay. And so I think that matters and it's important. And I will share with all of you that, what I've seen, particularly around this issue of cannabis, and we can talk about it a little bit more, right? This is not my expertise. And what you'll find about me is that I will never come up here and tell you I know everything about this, but it's a topic that I'm learning a lot about. And I'm grateful to Dallin for spending time with me and sharing more information. But I have been outspoken at the Board of Supervisors in this past August. I spoke in support of Supervisors Fletcher's proposal to provide economic access and equity in the cannabis industry. It was important for me to do that. I really do believe—
The only candidate that did. The only candidate running for supervisor now that did out of all 3 districts. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I did that because I think it's important to begin to set the record straight, right? We're not going to just wait until election day. And on election day, once I get elected, I'll be able to hit the ground running, but people need to know where candidates stand. And that's a very important differentiation between my opponent and myself. You will always know where I stand on issues, and you will always be able to meet with me. I'm very transparent. I'm very open about communicating with constituents and communities and groups that have, different perspectives as well. And so I'm happy to learn more from all of you. I feel that as we're talking about recovery and finding additional revenues to help boost our local economies, I do believe that the County of San Diego can lead the way, particularly on this issue, especially if we create a social equity program that creates ownership, employment, education, and reinvestment in our communities that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. And I think that as a community, we have a lot to do and a lot of opportunities. What I will say to all of you is that, I will be the first Latina, the first woman of color, the first immigrant on the Board of Supervisors, in addition to the first one that has a healthcare background. But I also am bilingual, and I think being able to speak Spanish and be able to talk to our communities directly about what this means is really important. There's a lot of stigma and misinformation around cannabis and what that means, and I'm happy to be your partner in this process as we are engaging our communities so that they better understand, how it impacts, how it could be also, how it is a positive thing, not a negative thing for all of us. And so happy to answer any questions and learn from all of you as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, yeah, you covered a lot there, but do probably want to just dig into, a couple different things. So I don't know if you were attached to the conversation with Matt and Mark, but especially with COVID and COVID recovery, have you really thought about what cannabis can do in that recovery aspect? Maybe dig in a little bit deeper into that.
Well, I mean, I think specifically around the revenues, right? The revenues that can come back into our county. And I think particularly, I mean, Chula Vista has been hit hard by the pandemic. And I think most of you know that with the CARES Act, a lot of the distribution of the resources has not been based on need, but has been based on the people. And so that has had a really great impact on things. And so I think there's a lot of work to be done in that particular arena. I also think that as we're trying to think about how we're going, especially with small businesses, and how we're going to revitalize our communities, that there's a great opportunity for us to do that. I know that there's been conversations about partnerships. I serve on the board of Southwestern College now, partnerships and how we can actually bring our educational systems into play. And we do a lot of economic development and job creation opportunities at the college. And so how could we do a lot more to really begin to think about, as this is a pathway for many of our young people that may not even know that this is something that they can do, right? Because you have to remember, we are in a border region, and there's a lot of stigma around what cannabis is and what that looks like, especially for our communities. And so I think that we have an opportunity to build and to strengthen and to really take it to a next level.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting concept, and I think it's much needed. I don't know how much any jurisdictions, counties, cities, anything like that have done, like if they've done a lot of outreach to their communities or to their residents to let them know, like, hey, this isn't, super scary anymore. That it can be beneficial. I mean, and especially in your district, in Chula Vista, National City, and everywhere else, a lot of the communities were impacted by the war on drugs pretty harshly. So, I do think that there has to be some type of effort made by our elected officials to let them know that things are a little bit different now, that things can be changed, or things have changed, and, to let them know how this actually benefits them. Especially, National City and Chula Vista, they were, they barely passed Prop 64. Yet, they're towards the front line when it comes to coming up with their own regulations. So, that's very, very interesting, and I think it's much needed. Just our cities and governments actually doing the outreach to educate folks on its benefits. So that's good. And you touched on social equity as well. A couple different aspects of that. Ownership is one of them, as well as, community benefits, making sure that resources go back to our communities. Anything else you want to add to that? That was a part of Fletcher's proposal. I think you commented on that. Yeah, anything else?
I did.
Else on that?
And, I think the Voice of San Diego also asked me about it yesterday. And I said, I think we have an opportunity to create economic parity by making sure that people understand it. And I think there was a person on a panel with Supervisor Fletcher's panel, a roundtable that had some really interesting ideas of how to engage communities. But I also, again, I really do think that there's a missing opportunity with the community college districts and figuring out how we partner up and make this part of a bigger pathway for our communities and for young people to be able to get through, right? We've seen it with the beer industry, right? The craft beer industry, and thinking about what that looks like. And so I think there's an opportunity here as well that we haven't explored as much as we could.
Yeah, definitely. It's much needed, and especially when it comes to social equity, they vary differently from city to city. And that's why we're really excited that Nathan wanted to bring that up and really look into it, Supervisor Fletcher wanted to look into it, just because it would be great to have some leadership at the county level and maybe provide some guidance and assistance to all the other jurisdictions in the county. That's very interesting to do a lot.
If we looked at it from a regional perspective, right? And I think that's the missing
100%.
of what hasn't really happened at the County of San Diego, whether it's housing, whether it's homelessness, whether it's all these different issues have really been looked at silos, and we really have left it out to the cities to make the decisions. I think Assemblymember Gonzalez's legislation to change the SANDAG and/or the legislation that Todd carried to be able to change the Air Resource Board. All these initiatives have really begun to really think about us as a region versus different silos. And I think somebody has a question here about the process of licensing in Chula Vista. All I can say, and of course I'm a fan, right? But if you elect people like Andrea Cardenas to the Chula Vista City Council and people that I can partner with, we have Steve Padilla there, we have Mayor Salas. I think that we can look regionally at this work and really think about how does it benefit our communities as a whole, right? Because in the end, that's what we want, the quality of life of our communities to be better. And you can't do that unless you have partners that are willing to sit at the table and really have clear discussion about what this looks like and look at how we do this together. So I think there's great opportunities.
Very good point. We're going to get into Chula Vista. You don't really have any, jurisdiction there per se. I think that the county could definitely give guidance once again, but they got to change things. Yes, and another plug for Andrea Cardenas. We got to get her elected so we can fix that ordinance for sure.
No, but I think, but I do believe that we need to step away from. Look, everybody believes that there's a reason why people get elected to these council seats and the city councils, and they do their work, right, in school boards. And I've been a trustee, so I know the work that happens at the local level. But look, I've been, as the president of the college, I can tell you there's a lot of things that are better because I do have great relationships with our city councils in each of these areas, right? So like Southwestern College is in Coronado, Imperial Beach, Chula Vista, San Diego, and National City, in Otay Mesa. And I get to work with each of these jurisdictions for issues from zoning, right? When we're trying to build, all the way to budgeting and ensuring that we have the resources that we need, in addition to actually making sure we have what we need for our students. But it's important to be able to have those relationships and to be able to sit down or pick up the phone and call and say, hey, have you thought about it from this other lens? Have you seen what's happening in San Jose or what's happening in Oakland and how they're moving this forward in such a way that's really having an impact and it's having a benefit to our communities why not try something like this? And I think that's something that we can do that hasn't been done as much. And people on the board of supervisors has just been like, for some reason, terrified, like touching the issue. And I think it's time to change things around because, again, I think it's important to do that.
Yeah, especially with the county not talking about it doesn't mean it's going to go away. I mean, it's here to stay. We need to use it. We need to make it benefit everybody. So yeah.
You know, I worked for Planned Parenthood for 20 years as an executive, and I'll tell you the one thing that we learned, and I think is really related to cannabis as well, right? Parents were always nervous about talking to their kids about sex because they didn't know how to even talk about it themselves. Same thing about cannabis and any of these issues that are hot topics for folks. People don't want to talk about them because they don't know enough about them, and they get worried and they get scared. And so the more information people have, the better decisions that they'll make, and the more, you know, it becomes less scary, right?
Yeah, 100%. To change, I guess, topics here for a second. I think you might be able to help with this one a little bit. Is taxation. So taxes on cannabis are way too high, and you know, just right off the bat, when it comes just with the taxation overall, cannabis in the legal marketplace is about 30 to 40% more expensive than the cannabis in the illicit marketplace. And because of this, you know, it's one of the main reasons why we have such a thriving illicit market. The county right now doesn't have an additional tax on cannabis, like say San Diego that has an 8% tax. You know, La Mesa, Chula Vista, all these other ones do have a very specific cannabis tax. You know, as elected, you think that you would look into adding a special tax? Because I mean, I know that some of the county operators do get a little bit more business because there is no tax. I guess what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know that I have an answer for that, Ellen, but I'm happy to, you know, look into it more. I mean, and that's not a politician answer. It's just I always, unless I have all the information specific about what the impact is going to be, if you want to, you know, educate me on that a little bit more, then I probably, you know, it wouldn't be hard for me to make a decision. But, you know, I think anytime that you're going to invest, and, you know, it depends on the way you look at taxes, right? I think for me, it's when you are looking at an investment, right? When you go out and ask communities, for instance, to vote on initiatives, and you are asking for additional dollars for our communities, you're reinvesting in our communities, and that's what you're doing because there's no other way to get those additional funds. And so maybe that's the lens that I would look at it from. But you also want to make sure that it's easier for folks, and you cut the red tape, and you're making sure that people are actually able to provide whatever product they're trying to get out there. So I think it's how do we make sure that the folks who are doing things illegally are not able to do it anymore, right? Because that's what's really hurting industry, and those are the people we have to go after, right? But yeah, I mean, I think that's the best way I would answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. You know, a lot of communities want the extra revenue, so hence the tax. But you know, especially since we have such a thriving illicit market, it could be hurtful. So, you know, something they can to take in. I don't know if I have a correct answer for that either. So yeah, no worries there.
Well, and I think part of it is, you know, you are all on the ground. Like, so what are your thoughts? And I know, I mean, I think that's why it's important to meet with folks and to really learn from the different perspectives. I mean, I've heard different conversations about, you know, why aren't we going after the owners of these buildings to make sure that people who are the illicit, you know, are doing this illegally, then they're the ones that are having to pay for it as well, because the other way it doesn't seem to work, and it's actually impacting the industry. So I'm open to listening and to learning.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're getting pretty close to the end here. I want to just see if anybody has any questions for Nora Vargas here. If you do, please go ahead and add them in the chat or in the question and answer section. I guess just a kind of a question that was proposed previously is, you know, I guess where are you at when it comes to, I guess, capping the amount of licenses that would be allowed in the unincorporated areas versus allowing just market influences to determine how many there should be.
Mm. So my understanding is that that's one of the big issues, right? That there was a cap in how many could be done. I mean, my natural instinct is that you don't have a cap, right? So that you can have it. But I mean, what has worked best?
There are few jurisdictions that don't have any cap, but either way, cap, no cap, we haven't seen the repercussions that are, I guess, prophesied about when it comes to increasing crime, youth use and everything like that. That has typically been the argument for capping the amount of licenses. But regardless of every jurisdiction that have allowed these, we haven't seen any of those concerns manifest. So, I am more of the thought that it doesn't really matter, that we should absolutely let the market decide, as we do with any other business. That way, you could spread the tax burden out amongst all the different operators, and you could actually dip into the illicit market demand. By having more of these things, you're educating more people and allowing more of these things to, be around. People are going to start going to them, because I think that a lot of consumers and just your general, just the general population doesn't know which of these are illegal and which are not. All they can really see is that the prices are less expensive. It's down the street. They've been going to it for a while. So it is what it is. Prop 64 passed, so they don't really understand the intricacies of land use and zoning, and that every jurisdiction has to do this on their own. So I'd say that's more of where I'm at. And I think that is also why we are lacking equity and diversity in the marketplace, is because of how few licenses there are.
But I think
it increases the price.
It's a really important point about people not knowing which are the ones that are regulated, that are done right. And I think that's really important, because the worst case scenario is that somebody goes somewhere where somebody didn't, cross all their I's, dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's, and then they end up in a situation, an extreme situation, and that's what comes out in the paper, and that's what people are talking about this is how this impacts our communities. And I think, people are really good at coming up with sort of extremes of things when they want to really push elected officials. And so I think the more we're able to do the education piece, so that people know, okay, these are the places where you can go. It's going to be, it's going to be fine. It's not a problem for you to go here. I think that's important, so that we're not, we're not putting people at risk.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes to a previous point about educating the community, right, and letting them know. Yeah, it goes back to that.
Yeah, no. So I really wish I could talk to this Miss Stephanie Gangano. She has a lot of information, but and I'm happy to chat with you, offline. But even when licenses have in business and the QR codes and stuff like that, regular people who are not using cannabis don't know that. You know what I mean? So, and I can tell you, because like for me, it sounded like, well, I wouldn't even know, right? I mean, I know now, but I didn't know, and so. I think there's a lot of misinformation about what cannabis is, and I understand that all of you are in the industry, and the people that you're probably around, it's normal, common, right? But it's not. In a lot of communities, it's not, and people wouldn't know to look for a QR code or any of that stuff. So I'm not. All I'm saying is I think we have some work to do, and I think I'm happy to do my part as a representative on the board to work with you, to make sure that we are doing the right thing, so that we are making sure that it's prosperous for our communities, and that everybody can still, enjoy it and be healthy and all of that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We got about a minute left. If anybody else has any questions or comments, now's the time. All right, give her a quick second there. Yeah, well, I think you covered all of my questions. So unless anybody, okay, yeah. So we did have one. If the puppy's still near you, we'd love to see your puppy.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
possible.
Oh my God, did you see how excited I got?
Most important question of all.
He is the most beautiful thing in the universe. Look at him. Ay, loco, mira, voltea allá.
Oh my goodness.
Mira, allá.
What kind is it?
Well, he's supposed to be a pointer mix, but we don't know who the baby daddy. He's a Labrador, a rescue from the Labrador and Me.
Okay.
I love him.
Oh, he's adorable. Okay.
I'm the annoying person now that does that. I'm like, I used to hate when people did that, and here I am doing the same.
No, it's all good. All good. Okay. All right. Well, that was the last question we got. So, I guess anything you want to add in closing? Anything you want to wrap up with?
Thank you for the opportunity. Again, this is a really tough race. I'm running against the sitting state senator. If any of you are compelled to support, I would really appreciate it. There's we got 20 something days to go. A lot of information to get out to voters. There's lots going on. And so whatever you could do, my website is noravargas.com. I don't know if we put it up there. It's on there.
It should be in the chat.
And feel free to reach out. I will also give you my cell phone number if anybody has questions. It's attendees, right? 619-339-3634. And anybody has questions or wants to share anything else with me, you can do it there, or you can email me at noravargas.com.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. Well, that is it. Okay, just give everybody a second to answer that. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Nora. Really appreciate you coming. Great conversation, and we look forward to helping you out with the last month of the election here. Good luck with everything, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
All right. Thanks. Have a wonderful day.
Okay. All right. You as well. Thank you.